Dipen here again. Good to be here. It's a privilege to be in front of all you delegates. Been in wireless for a few years myself, so I really appreciate the opportunity. I don't know how many of you noticed, but we've been tracking a checklist of sorts, and all of us network and Wi-Fi geeks always like to have a checklist. Hey, because I don't want to miss anything. And what we are here trying to do is kind of lift the curtain on how Nile is taking care of things so that what our customers get is an excellent service. So far, by the time the network is deployed on day one, these are typically the things that go sideways. I just want to quickly recap some important points that Shiv made. By the time the network is up on day one, the deviations such as was there an unexpected speed drop on some of the links is already detected and fixed. There is a deviations report that gets generated during handoff, and the installer with feet on the ground doesn't leave the site until a bunch of those get fixed. So we're getting into day one, a lot of those issues are already fixed. And I know a bunch of you have made, or some of you in the community have made LinkedIn posts about how these things have not been automated today. And there isn't a very streamlined process to make sure that all the APs are powered up, they have enough PoE. Those problems completely eliminated in case of Nile because the automated bill of materials takes care of your PoE budget needs, and we have all that data. So there isn't a situation with Nile where after day one, there is a situation that, hey, there were 50 APs that were supposed to be up, but there's only like 48, and then you're struggling to find 2 more. So there are more things that happen once the network is up. Introducing to you the Nile AI Automation Center. What you're looking at here is a real network. This is our Nile dog fooding network. And once the network is up and running on day one, internally in the AI Automation Center, it's ready to be operated and optimized by the Nile team as well. What you see here is the topology or the digital twin, if you will. We have comprehensive information on the Nile elements that were activated, Nile elements that still have some deviations open, and some deviations might be acceptable because maybe it was a hard to swap cable or whatever. And we said, this cable is just going to be on 1 Gbps speed. And working with the customer, they may have accepted the deviation. All of that is maintained in the AI Automation Center. What you're looking at here on the top is basically what we internally call as the customer or the tenant details page. And you also get a layout of your AP and sensor placement. What is hard to see is each of those green boxes, there's like usually a gray box that will show up next to those. And that's basically showing you the planned versus deployed. So the green is the deployed, gray is the planned. So even during day two, we want to make sure that the internal line teams, when they are trying to triage an issue, they are able to have all this information about the deployment at their fingertips. There were 3 main principles the AI Automation Center was built on. Number 1, we are driving towards a zero incident service. Okay, whether that is through auto closing the tickets, remediating the tickets. Principle number 2, if an incident ever happens, we want Nile to be the first ones to know. And the third tenet for our AI Automation Center is no ticket is ever resolved manually. So we are constantly chasing that North Star. And what you see here is an example of our apologize for that. This is the landing page for our AI Automation Center. What's the first striking thing you find about this page? There are no dashboards. There is no pie chart. There are no time series graphs. What you're seeing internally as a production network engineering team, that's the Nile's internal operator team, is a point ticket about an issue that has already been auto-detected. What you're looking at here is the automated runbook that was already run on the ticket. So when our operators are logging in, they're actually getting all of this information as and when the incident happened. In this case, I picked an example where we saw some unusually high number of TX failures on a radio. Typically, what does the journey look like when you're triaging such an issue? Subject matter experts get involved. You have to go through the hard work of actually writing a runbook. And there is no magic here. We actually have gone through that pain. The SMEs have written the runbooks, and we have automated those runbooks in the AI Automation Center. And then it basically goes ahead and is able to give you analysis that what the conclusion was. In the topology view or digital twin, it highlights which is the device under question or under observation. And not just that, if you look at this list here, in the traditional world, typically this is how the support cases go. You have a problem, you get a support call, a lot of things get asked. Hey, what were the logs for that duration when the issue happened? When did the issue start? When did the issue end? Can you try to reproduce the issue? This right here is basically all of that detection of incidents, collecting the information as and when the incidents was happening, already ready for you, auto-collected. Okay? And I want to just pause on one of the other cool things that I wanted to show is right here. The automated runbook could also go wrong, and we sometimes want to have eyes on those as well. So the decision graph that the software traversed is uploaded for our production network engineering team to view. We have a pretty good rate of exiting at the right moment through these automated graphs, but this is just one of the things that we do to make sure that we are constantly reviewing. So detect, diagnose, and resolve. These are the three-step process that you'll typically see the incidents go through. So to a lot of questions earlier, when an AP goes offline, or let's say we are seeing some unusually high number of retries, or maybe a switch went offline, we experience some device heartbeats being lost. There are optical transceiver issues. Nile gets the incident first.
To be clear, this interface that you're showing us, that's like an internal tool. That's not customer facing.
That's correct. That's not customer facing. Okay. Yeah, and that's a good point. Again, like we said, at MFD12, we wanted to lift the curtains on how are we making this magic happen. So we're giving you a peek on what we are seeing internally and how we are scaling internally, right? Because these problems, you cannot possibly throw people at the problem.
And even that interface is not really being used by our engineers. It's rarely when something is not automatically done, that's when they come in and look into it. So it's rarely used by our engineers as well.
And to recap some of Suresh's points earlier, why is that possible? Single network architecture, physical sensors, virtual sensors, deep instrumentation. It's a single unified data store. And that's what really makes for a more robust AI automation experience. So the things that we are able to detect is based on signals that we are collecting from physical sensors, virtual sensors, and of course, a lot of telemetry. All the examples I spoke about, that's not possible without a lot of telemetry. So just to give you guys a peek into the kind of telemetry we collect, we have heard the word Nile service block several times through the presentation so far. That we refer to as the core. That's the sensors, access points, access switches, distribution switches. And we collect up to 100 plus metric points over there. Then other elements of the core, such as the Wi-Fi radios, per port metrics, Nile element systems, such as the CPU memory, resource-related metrics. Then we have environment. So environment is a big factor. We already spoke about a couple of them. Cables bend, cables get chewed on. So there are metrics that are monitoring those environmental aspects as well.
And all of that happens, that's a device that's there on site at the customer location, or is this all pushed up to the cloud?
It's all pushed up to the cloud. So all of this telemetry, as you can see here, it's collected every minute from each of the Nile elements. And we are talking about terabytes of data per day per customer. In fact, more. I'm just being conservative. And lastly, the context and user experience. The other thing that has to happen, otherwise there is no network without it, is automated channel planner. And in this day and age, we've seen through all of the channel planning in our past lives, and we've heard a lot about that. Why are we talking about it here? If you are thinking that makes two of us, because when I first got hired at Nile, Suresh was like, hey, we need to go and look at our channel planner. And rightly so. What is left in channel planner? What was left in channel planner, it hadn't shifted left enough. So this is kind of a confidence builder for our customers and partners to make sure that when Nile is shifted left, we have comprehensively thought about channel planning, and it kicks in right when the first AP gets activated. There are no customer-facing knobs. There is nothing that the partner has to do. But the one thing that really makes the channel planner robust is we have solved the problem of making sure that that rich Wi-Fi site survey data that Shiv alluded to, it's consumed directly by the channel planner. Think about it. All that time and resources spent in doing a Wi-Fi survey, that's already ensuring good coverage everywhere. Why not use those site-specific parameters into the channel planner? right?
So if I have a bona fide need to lock an AP to a channel, is that still possible?
That is still possible. Those are the kind of one-offs that, based on the use case, the customer would just reach out to us. We would have to first talk about why there is a need to do that.
But let me add to it. We had a customer who is a tenant in a WeWork location, and the WeWork IT team came to us and said, you have to use these channels. Because channel planning algorithms never worked. We know that, right? 50% of the customers don't use it. So WeWork IT team came us and said, these are the exact channels we want you to use it. And we explained our algorithms. The customer did not listen. And we spent almost a day and we requested, can you give us one day, let our automatic channel planner work. And he gave us permission and it worked, and much better than the static channels the customer chose. So the other exceptions, probably not. I really think there are no exceptions. We're able to handle those kind of complex environments, but if needed, we can definitely take it offline.
Yeah.
So I'm not really happy with that. And the reason I say that is I just dealt with a situation where we had a specialty device that can only work on the bottom 4 channels and 5 gig. That's the kind of scenario where my question is coming from. If I had to lock in a channel because something like that comes up, I'm just based on what you guys just said. Now I'm calling up Nile and I'm trying to plead my case, and it sounds like you can disagree and say, no, we're not doing.
No, Lee, let me clarify that. So the thing is, frankly, when, as Dipen said, we have an option to take care of it. But more importantly, can we identify those kind of devices and do it automatically? That's the direction we're going. That's what I meant. Yes, you don't need to make a plea, but we can, we want to understand, see, hey, can we automatically do it? Because most likely we would have come across those devices and we would have done that for you. That's where I'm going with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. And we have a similar example. In interest of time, I'm going to quickly rush through this. This was just me trying to show the channel planner's internal view and the visibility that we have. But again, there is no Nile personnel or partner customer involved in getting the channel planner to work and lift off the ground. That's the basic, that's table stakes, that's a given. There are several other optimizations that we have to put in place. So again, in interest of time, I'm going to rush through it and directly zoom into a couple of things that we constantly also evolve our channel planner algos internally. If you were to ask, and if I were to put a version number, I would say we are running a channel planner 2.0 right now. And that's mainly because our algo has evolved based on all the learning and all the different kinds of even devices and device capabilities we have run into. We're going to look into one of those. What this also gives us is the ability to perform A/B testing, and hopefully we'll get some time to talk about that in our AI session. And this is one of the cases, I believe, Lee, kind of falls in that realm of least capable, most important device. And I'm looking at Sam here online. We have had some interesting discussions about that. And we actually did run into the situation at a customer. In this day and age, you would think, why would a device not be able to support Uni2 DFS channels? But you do end up running into those devices, just like Lee over here was saying that, hey, there is a special device that only operates on the lower 5 gigahertz channels. What I'm trying to show is the thinking that we have at Nile, that we want to account for those LCMIs and see if we can automatically adjust for those so that we can eliminate the churn. Because in hindsight, if you think about this problem, when that non-DFS supporting device was discovered, the end user was already struggling and they were complaining about bad performance because it was connecting farther away. Then a support team was struggling. Everyone's scratching their head as to what could be wrong, because all the vitals on the AP look good. There's really nothing except for the fact that, hey, this device is connecting far away. And we start to look at all sorts of things. Is it the TPC? Is it the power? Everything looks okay. And then you finally find out that, oh, there you go, this device doesn't support Uni2. And the nearest APs it had were all on DFS channels. So we just added some smartness, and we are hoping to sort of incorporate and continue this thinking at Nile to really accommodate for more of these LCMIs. In interest of time, I'm going to just quickly brush through this really. We do heavily use Uni2, and I know there are implications with radar. So we make sure that our APs locally have a better backup channel that they can move to. because if the AP is making its local decision to move to a channel based on its kind of siloed information, that may not be as good. So our channel planner is kind of taking a much longer historical view, and it's providing each AP a better backup channel that they can move to, which is based on more holistic knowledge about the environment. So just wanted to talk about those two when it comes to channel planning. Hopefully that address some of the curiosity that, hey, shifting left, channel planning is a big area. How does Nile take care of it? Hopefully we were able to answer some of that. And I can talk all day long about my own channel planning, but what's important is what our partners are saying. Driven is one of our up and coming partners, and they recently did a pre and post Nile survey at one of our larger customers, and this is what essentially they were able to notice. Again, the partner, customer, or Nile wasn't involved in fine tuning any of this, so it was very encouraging for us to see. And we have hundreds of customers, several floors, buildings we are talking about, and millions of square feet coverage area, all running on a centralized automated channel planner across for all our customers.
And more importantly, this is a one-to-one replacement.
So that was a replacement. You swapped out gear when you did that. It wasn't just a pure
Yes,
channel change.
Correct.
It was
That's-
swapping hardware,
that's correct.
tuning transmit powers.
Yes.
So
We-
there's a lot more going on than just evaluating channel plan capabilities of
That's
here.
that's right. In fact, that's a good point, because, like I said earlier, it was a one-to-one replacement. But the fine-tuning of the power and any of that, we literally took it all the way from site survey and directly into the channel plan. So there was no manual intervention. The only adjustments and reactions that the channel planner has to worry about really is environmental changes that are happening and transmit power changes in case of coverage holes that we have to worry about. But really, if we are able to nail down, and which Nile did, is getting that site survey data into channel planner, you're starting with a very solid baseline with no intervention. All right. There are more things that happened during day one, and I might be talking faster than usual. There are no missing VLANs in case of Nile because there are no VLANs, and the AP operates in one single mode, so there is no such thing as selecting what mode the AP is going to operate in. It's always centrally terminated on our NSB gateway. And there are barely any customer-facing knobs as far as wireless is concerned. Shiv showed a dashboard for the Nile portal, which is our customer-facing portal. You create your SSID, select a security op mode, and that takes care of it. We, in fact, even take care of managing some of the security op mode nuances that we have with 6 gigahertz now, and we'll be happy to talk about that in detail in the last 30 minutes. So really, there is not really much the customer or the IT teams are having to do to give your WLANs that next oomph that we typically want to desire. You also saw vids and whips in there, and I'm going to zoom in real quick on just one of the things that again demonstrates how we want to automate some of these things that are quite intuitive, right? Again, our environments are modernizing. Could more and more environments be operating with lower data rates shaved off? And answer is yes, why not? But again, sticking true to our LCMI approach, we want to make sure that we just don't assume that the environment is modern and shave off lower rates. So we take into account the device capability. If there are older devices, we don't typically shave off lower rates, and we do if the environment is pretty modern. Again, very intuitive, nifty little feature, but automating it just delights our partners and customers. We recently had a partner deploy a network, and the partner was asking us, hey, I would like to remove lower rates. Where do I find the knobs for it? Is there anything in the app? And we were like, nope, don't worry. The environment is learning. Once the learning process is done, the lower rates will be gone. 30 seconds on vids and whips. With the Nile's secure architecture, the wired rogue AP into your network, that has pretty much become irrelevant. But that does still happen. So one of our customers, a dental office, they moved their network to Nile, and they just put everything into the Nile network from their existing network as is. And in our authentication table, they essentially approved all the MAC addresses they had on their existing switches, and that just basically let this rogue device in. So vids and whips tends to be relevant in that sense, and it does help with PCI compliance needs. Today, the vids and whips experience, if you talk to customers and partners, it's like hundreds and hundreds of pages of config and user guide. Very hard to kind of crack the balance. But with Nile, since we own the core it's very easy for us to do the lot of complicated categorization and classification that's absolutely required for bids. So I wanted to quickly just touch upon that. Again, this is automatically just running out of the box at the time of activation. With that, we looked at a bunch of additional optimizations and features that get turned up on day one. And hopefully we were able to demonstrate that neither the customer nor the partner really had to do some of these common things that you would like to do. Now I'm going to hand it off to Ibrahim, who's going to talk about some of the more complex realm when it comes to end user experience. Ibrahim, all
Quick
yours.
question on the AI Automation Center. What is the data Nile's using to, enable AI automation?
Yes, so there's like comprehensive telemetry, and there's like 3 different categories: the core, the environment, and the context. And we are looking at more than 800, 900 data points we collect from the Nile elements that's enabling the AI Automation Center. Yeah.
So it's almost all internal. There's
Yes.
not much or none to little external data.
Yeah, well, when you say external, the end device capabilities, for example, and some of the metrics related to the end devices, also we have the ability to collect, because
Okay.
there's a lot of information packed in the probes and association requests and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you.